Hey guys, my name is Patrice. I am the founder of Creative Genius Law, a business, new media, and intellectual property law firm for creatives. So I want to talk to you about collaboration because an article fell across my desk this week that is essentially a cautionary tale around what to look out for and what can happen when you don't properly enter a collaboration. Now, I want to have this conversation because creatives are collaborating every day, right? And I think it's important. It's an opportunity to build relationships, to go after new business opportunities, and possibly even increase your revenue because of the collaboration. But even though you are collaborating with people that you might know and you might have a relationship with, you still want to make sure that it's done in a way that is looks out for your best interest and that creates the lowest risk possible for you. And you also ideally don't want to lose money along the way. So last week, Creative Genius Law hosted a very important conversation on the arts of collaboration. And the reason why we had that conversation was because we see a lot of instances of just partnerships gone bad. And we want to do our part to help you stay out of those situations, to do what you can to prevent them in the first place. And so the article that we are going to talk about, or the scenario, is actually around Bel-Air, the reboot that we all at this point hopefully know and love. And the article is titled, "I was promised a part in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air remake. Instead, I left LA jobless and in debt." Now, I always hate to read things like this, but unfortunately, this is not a one-time situation. This is a common scenario in many industries, to be honest. And so the person who we're speaking about, his name is Rufus Burns, and I'm just going to read you an excerpt from the article to kind of set the tone. So what Rufus says is that, "I am a producer and actor with common sense. But when you have someone in your ear promising you certain things, it's really hard to stop and be like, hey, I'm not getting paid for months and months of work, and I'm starting to struggle financially. It was a weird balance because it's like you're my homie, but I'm not eating and you're eating off of all of this." So that just kind of sets the tone for what this situation is about. So if any of you all were paying attention, back in 2018, I think it was, we saw the trailer. Don't quote me on that year. I might be wrong, but it was a few years ago. And we saw the trailer for this dramatized version of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The trailer was produced by or created by Morgan Cooper. And that's the other person that we're going to be kind of talking about in this scenario. And essentially, Morgan came up with that concept for the Bel-Air drama. He approaches Rufus, who is his friend, to be involved. And he specifically, according to Rufus, wanted him to be involved as the role of Jazz, right? And that's why we have Jazzy Jeff on the screen. So they began working on the project. That evolved in that I think it was initially going to be a feature film. And then it eventually became the series that we have seen on Peacock. Now, Rufus was excited about the opportunity. Obviously, he went in head first. He relocated to LA. And where things went wrong was that there was nothing on paper, right? So he is doing all of this work for the project essentially on a handshake deal, and because he trusts his friend. And what ultimately happens is that he said he worked at least 3 months on the project, and he just noticed that certain details weren't being shared with him, which was strange for him because he was actually in the writer's room when some important conversations and work for the project was taking place. He actually was involved, I believe, with other aspects of casting, or at least had information about it. But when it came time for pre-production and to actually film the project, he just wasn't in the loop, and it felt strange to him. Ultimately, what happened is that Cooper, who is not only creator, director, and executive producer for the project, did not cast him in the role. And I want to start this off by saying this is not to cast aspersion on these two guys, because this honestly can happen to anyone, but it is a powerful example of what to look out for when you are entering collaborations for yourself. So I have a few lessons for you that I want you to take as your takeaway for today. So the first thing is whenever you have the opportunity to collaborate with someone, I want you to think about how it fits into your bigger picture, right? So everything that we are doing from day to day in our creative practices or in our businesses ideally fits within this puzzle of our big picture. So it should be inching us forward while we're creating space for other things that we're just doing just because. But most of the stuff that we are doing in our businesses should just inch us forward, right? Or move the needle rather. So you want to think about how a collaboration fits into your big picture. The next thing is you want to be clear on your goals. Now, as a collaborator, you want to be clear on the let me get this right. You want to be clear on the collaboration's goals, but you want to be clear on your personal goal for entering the collaboration. Now, in this scenario, Rufus's personal goal, I think obviously was to play the role of Jazz. That is a conversation that he had. That was the expectation that was set. And that was a goal for him on the project. Now, he might have had other goals. For instance, it may have been to get more work like this under his belt. We don't really know. But the lesson for you is establish what your personal goals are in the collaboration. Now, the third thing you want to do is to be transparent about it. I tell people all the time, when you are entering partnerships and collaborations with other people, it's important to have the tough conversations up front, and you want to be as specific and as transparent as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that you're just running around here being dishonest and purposefully withholding information. But what can happen is when things are moving fast, when an opportunity is exciting, and when you just generally just want to do it, right? You may kind of leave yourself behind, and you may not be the advocate for yourself that you need to be in that moment. So we need you to be as transparent as possible around what your personal goal is from the project and what is important to you. You being transparent is probably going to lead to things slowing down and to your collaborator really kind of hearing you out and you guys nailing some things down that you might not do if you did not take that step in transparency. So I want you to be transparent. And then the final thing I want you to do is to get it in writing. Now, I'm going to be honest, a lot of people don't get it in writing, right? Especially in this type of scenario where you know the collaborator, you trust them, you're excited about the project, things are possibly moving fast. When we're talking about Hollywood, there are a lot of different decision makers, and Cooper may not have been the only one. He wasn't the only one, I can tell you that for a fact. But he had a lot of influence, I would presume, given his title of director, executive producer, and creator. And so because of that influence, there could have been language in the contract that could have provided some level of assurance to Rufus that he would be first up for that role. Now, it doesn't mean that he wouldn't have had to test for it or to screen for it and audition for it. He could have very well still needed to go through a normal process. But if you have a creator and they're saying, hey, this is my person, person has been here from the beginning, this is who I want in this seat, that is going to carry influence. So my point is that you can have contract language that provides some level of protection against this scenario. If you're not following me, follow me on creative_ESQ. You can also follow Creative Genius Law at Creative Genius Law on all platforms. And I'll see